Afternoon, folks. Down here in the basement. Pretty sad, but apparently this is all I can muster as of now. And gonna be doing a bit of basement blacksmithing. I started some last night, just trying to make some of these little hooks. It's not much, but beats doing nothing. I would say that I'm making this video to be inspirational, to show that no matter what circumstances you're in, you can always be productive, find something to do, better your skills. But the primary reason I'm actually making this is because I want to have a pretty funny video to look back on in the future when I have a super badass shop and have all the tools to do the stuff properly. But for now, we're down here. Got a map gas torch and a chunk of metal I found. So let's see what we can do. Oh, off to a poor start already. Not that it won't get hot enough to forge, but you're just going to lose heat so quickly. That's why I'm starting off with some small stock. This is 3/16 round stock. Going to try and make some more of those hooks, so I'm going to start on the end here. Trying to draw it out and taper it down a little bit so I can curl it back and make a nice little hook end like those other ones. Again, very minimal tools here, but let's see what we can do. I cut this end with a hacksaw and then kind of filed it a little bit to try and prevent cold shuts when I do hammer this down. If you got a rough edge, that'll kind of end up in the forging and it won't really stay together nicely. This is a good size stock to start with, just because you could almost work it cold if you had a good sturdy anvil and a good hammer, but it definitely helps get it as hot as you can. My forge is currently in storage. Kind of just put some square edges on that and clean it up, and then we'll make our little hook end there. Definitely a pretty miserable way to go about it, but again, you know, I expect with a little bit of practice, some of these hooks that I end up making will be decent. Make a little key ring out of it maybe. But even here in the basement with basic tools, you could still start to get an idea of what sort of skills you need, and you could get a little bit of good practice actually. And then once you upgrade, you decide it's something you actually want to do. Then you'll have some skills already transferable instead of dropping a bunch of money on something you're not sure if you're going to like or not. Well, I know I'm going to like this though. I have a little bit of experience. When you really thin that edge out by drawing it out, that's when you're really going to see that cold shut that I'm talking about if you have a ragged edge there. So looks like we did okay. So now I'm going to curl this over and that'll be the start of our hook. Again, this torch is enough to get this thin stock hot enough, but anything thicker than this, I have a piece of 1/4-inch round stock over here I was working with, and it was definitely a bit of a struggle keeping it hot. So obviously not ideal, but better than no forging. Got a little bit of a hook in there. Continue on down here. Straighten that up a little bit. Then I'll go for my bend. Just using like a framing hammer. Definitely not the best because I mean, it'll work okay for a small stock like this, but anything big you want to have kind of a larger face. And even if you buy like a cross peen hammer from your hardware store or whatever, what a lot of guys will do is kind of grind that down a bit so it's a good flush edge. Some of them come with ridges in there, like for better traction on nails or whatever. It's a little bit of a start. Definitely slow going though. Definitely best to have a flat surface to forage on, but again, I'm just making do right now. I could grind that down if I thought it would merit it, but I mean, it's all I had at the moment, and if I continue to do this, I'll definitely scrounge up something a little bit better. You really just need a good piece of metal. Heat this up and then bend it. That's where having a round part kind of is better when you're making bends or making round parts. This kind of simulates the horn of a traditional anvil, actually. Again, because this stock is so thin, you probably don't even need to get it as hot as you would need to if it was thicker. Let's see, actually. Kind of just work that over. Got a bit of a bend in there now. Focus on this part a little more. When you draw it out and it gets thinner, it definitely heats up a little better. So once you start working it kind of gets a little easier as you go along. At my old house, I did have a pretty crude charcoal forge. I didn't even use proper coal, actually, just charcoal. And I had like a shop vac and some cast iron dish that I got out of the scrap dumpster at work. And even that was better than this. And that cost very little. Just again, I made it out of some scrap. One of those little shop vacs from Home Depot was like 20 bucks. And then the biggest cost was the charcoal, actually. But so we really are working bare minimum here today, and again, it's not terribly fun or productive, but I mean, again, it's kind of a good way to get your hand into it at a real minimum cost. Now where that's round right there, right in here, I'm going to heat that up and kind of square off the edges a little bit so we can try to do a little bit of a twist. You know, if it's round like this, then you're not gonna have any real features to your twist if it's just round stock. So you got to square it up. A lot of times, I would prefer to start with square stock, actually, but this is what I had at the moment. So you have to square it up. I'm not going to have this hook be too terribly long, so probably just a couple small twists will be just fine, but it's going to take a couple heats with this torch in order to square those edges off like I would like. And I have a lot to learn about camera use also, I guess. That square didn't end up being terribly even, but it's probably going to be enough to make our twist, which I'm just going to use the pliers for. Yep. There we go, if you can see that. Probably a little tough to see, and I'm running out of battery again. Nice little twist though. Give it a little bit of flair, eh? Alright, I gotta go charge this. Got my cold chisel here. Clamped to the bench. I'm gonna try and straighten this bend out a little bit. This piece here is a little bit big to get right in there, so give it a shot. This off now. Got my little twist and got the bend here. I'm gonna cut it off about here, and then I think I should just make this into an S hook actually. Yeah, maybe that'll be a bit better idea. I'll make an S hook, so I'll kind of start here and forge that down, and then you should be able to just kind of snap it off when it gets hot. Well. I should use this cold chisel. Keep in mind when you go to cut this that when you draw it out to taper that edge and make that little curl at the end and make it fancy looking. When you draw it out, it's going to get longer, so if you cut it the same length as the other one, you're going to end up with a longer part. So you kind of want to go a little shorter, so when you draw it out, it ends up being more even. Let's see this color. Nearly hot enough. Oh, would you look at that? File that off quick, actually. Another point worth noting, you see I got vice grips in here. Vice grips are always going to leave scrapes and marks on there, so that's why those blacksmiths, they have like specially built tongs to grip all sorts of different shapes, and that usually doesn't leave as rough a finish as this, but again, the purpose is more about practice, kind of trying to hone some skills a little bit. Obviously these aren't going online, but yeah, I'll file this up a little bit before we go to draw that edge out. We'll finish this S hook up. Files only work in one direction. You only work with the push. Guess I would have waited to do these bends until I had both ends tapered and trailed over like I wanted, but that's the sort of stuff you learn, I guess, when you just start going for it instead of dreaming about anvils and stuff like that. More about just making it happen. But yeah, make a nice SO used to hang your shower curtain, I guess. That was out of the little one I made the other night. I'll work on that a bit. This one is made out of that quarter inch stock. Not really sure what I'm going to do at the top with it. Maybe just make another SO out of that, but yeah. Doing something with not much. Making something out of nothing, I guess. Alright, that's all I got to say for myself now. And yeah, having the torch there was kind of sketchy, but hey, I had my safety glasses on. And again, the real purpose of the video is my future entertainment more so than your present enlightenment, so take it with a grain of salt. Y'all take care.